evening, everyone. Welcome to One BROCKTON. One BROCKTON is a show that brings to you by Haitian community partners in collaboration with MCTV. So it's a pleasure to be here with you tonight. And tonight we have a guest. It's someone in the community that's been working in the community for a long time, and so I will let her to present her, give her a little bit of background of herself. But it's a pleasure to have her today. So we are going to talk a little bit about domestic violence. So the better person to talk about that it's Lovern Gordon. So I don't need to do a presentation for her. She's going to tell you a little bit more about her background, what she has been doing, and how she started doing the work that she's doing. Welcome, Lovern, to One Brockton.
Thank you for having me, Marlene, and Happy New Year to everyone. I am so glad to be on the show and talking about an issue that is near and dear to my heart, which is domestic violence awareness. I founded Love Life Now Foundation, as Marlene pointed out, a long time ago.
Yes,
But it is
yes.
11 years. It's been 11 years and counting that we've been around raising awareness around the issue of abuse by hosting community events that raise awareness in non-confrontational ways, getting people on the forefront about the ways that they can be part of the solution, but also ways that they can also bring back the issue of domestic violence awareness to their communities to be able to highlight awareness on their own time. But we've also raised funding through some of these events for domestic violence agencies, again, in and around the state, as well as nationwide. And we also have a couple of direct service initiatives that we have that help victims and survivors of abuse get to their next leg of their journey. So that's what we've been doing in the community for many years. More than a couple of the events center around Brockton residents. And so we're so happy to be on the show to be able to further let people know how they can get a hold of our services.
Lovan, thank you so much for being here with us today. Before we continue, brought you to that field? What is it that makes you be an activist to talk about domestic violence in the community? Could you
Yeah,
let the
that's a good
community?
question. Yeah, that's a good question for sure. I am and I identify as a two-time survivor of domestic violence. Once as a child witness to it growing up on the island of Trinidad in the Caribbean, not too far from Haiti, and also as a young adult survivor of a 2-year relationship that lasted from the age of 21 to 23. And for me, for many years growing up, watching my mother, who was the victim that I first knew around this issue, watching my mom for all those years go through brutal abuse and attacks at the hands of our father, I kept saying to myself that that would never be me, that I would never let anybody treat me the way my father treated our mother. And unfortunately, children that grow up in abusive homes or abusive settings or abusive communities, they tend to go on to repeat the cycle of abuse because that is what they know. I often say
Exactly.
to folks, yeah, I often say to folks that, when we're talking about this issue, that, they say, oh, well, um, they never saw their mother being hit, or they never, experienced in their own. Children take what they see. And oftentimes parents tell children, don't do what I do what I say. But children subconsciously inherit behaviors that are passed down from either mothers and or fathers, and they go on to perpetuate those behaviors, whether good or bad, in their own adult lives. And I was no exception. So, migrating to the States in 1993, I subsequently fell into an abusive relationship and missed all the red flags that were around this relationship. I thought, for all intent purposes, that he treated me better in the first 3 months of the relationship than any other person that I had been involved with up to that point. And
But which usually that's the case for most of the victim of domestic violence, right?
yes, yes. Missing the red flags is very common. And unless you are in tune with what abusers their tactics to manipulate and, take power and control over persons, you're never going to see them unless you're educated, right? And for me, specifically, I tell people often say, well, how could you let yourself get into that type of relationship when you saw what your mother had went through? And the fact is that I I was born into the abuse that my mother was experiencing. I didn't see the beginning, right? So all I knew were the what I thought was enough to know was, he puts his hands on her, he gets very jealous. If she doesn't cook the food to his liking, he'll beat her. If she shows up a minute or two late, he will beat her. Like, I knew the onset of attacks. I didn't know how they met, what his coercion was, what his manipulation was. So even though I thought I was equipped with information to be able to navigate relationship as an adult, and to know what to not look or get into, I was not equipped with that information. And many people, young people going into adult relationships, they don't know as well.
They're not.
All they know is
Yeah.
what they see, and what they see is what they often perpetuate. And again, I was no exception.
Yeah, usually you see things in the surface, so you don't know what is deep inside. So you don't know the deep
Hmm.
stories inside. So
Correct.
it's a mistake that anyone can make. So, Lovern,
Yes.
in your work, what is the most challenging have you encountered in helping people working in domestic violence?
People that are oftentimes at the juncture where they've either decided that they want to leave because they've reached their breaking point, or they're thinking about leaving. The biggest obstacle is fear, right? And I can speak to that as a survivor myself, because you get to that point where that what's happening isn't what it's supposed to be. Relationships aren't supposed to be full of emotional, physical, and verbal
Mm-hmm.
abuse. And you tell yourself, okay, I'm ready to make a change, but what does the other side look like? All I've known is this abuse, right? So what's on the other side for me? Is when I go out there, is anybody else going to love me the way this person says they have loved me? Is somebody going to be able to take care of my children? Is somebody, all the roles that the abuser, took, is somebody else, or am I going to be able to do this on my own, right? So pay the bills. It could be, taking care of the children. It could be, status in the community. It could be whatever the case. There's so many barriers that keep victims from leaving. And at the very core of that is fear. And so I think that's one
Fear.
of the big obstacles. Yeah. I mean, because people, again, even if you're decided that you want to leave now, or you're thinking about leaving, the unknown is insanely scary. And then at the core, you might have an
Yeah.
abuser who is threatening you with many different things, to make you stay and fearful. They may be saying, I'll kill the pet. I will harm your parents. I will harm you further. I will harm the children. I will take the children. I will make sure you don't have custody. I mean, I will have you deported, right? So there are all these things that they're hearing from their abuser, not understanding that none of that will be true if you seek help, and seek help safely. But all they know is what they know, and what they know is in front of them, being presented to them by their abuser. So fear, at the core of it, is fear.
Well, it's very difficult and challenging for someone who is in a situation with domestic violence to get away from it, because it's not one simple I'm waking up with you and I'm walking
Right.
away. So
No,
it's a lot of work. It's a lot
a
of
lot of
if
layers.
it's a lot of layers. So therefore, if you don't have someone to walk you through those layers, so
Correct.
you
So
end up
two
staying where you
things.
are.
Exactly. So two things to that end. Um, People often say, why doesn't this person, I don't want to say she, because I bet domestic violence affects men too. Why don't they just leave? And as you said, it is not as easy. It is not picking up and leaving or exiting the relationship with a rational person. When abusers hear or feel or think that you are seeking to leave them, the mentality that they have is, over my dead body. How dare you seek to leave? How dare you seek to diminish my power and control over you? Which is what this issue circumvents: power and control over another person. And so when victims seek to leave, it is the most dangerous time of the relationship because abusers will stop at nothing to regain or continue to have that level of power and control that they've had over you, whether it be a week, a month, a year that you've been living with them. And one case that's very much in the forefront as we speak to this is the Anna Walsh case. Most recently that's been splashed all across the news regarding this missing woman whose husband is the prime suspect. And, you have evidence coming out where she was either selling assets or, it almost seems like there was something happening in the background where she was seeking to leave, or at the very
Mm-hmm.
least end the relationship or be done with him. And so, again, that mindset sets in, and it's so hard because, again, there's so many barriers. They will stop at nothing to keep that level of power and control over you. So when you are seeking to leave, if you're thinking about leaving an abusive relationship, one of the other cases is in Brockton, that happened, I think, maybe about 2 months ago, where this woman was killed in her driveway and her grandchild witnessed the incident. Having an advocate and speaking up, first of all, speaking up, telling someone who can then direct you to what resources are available, whether that's us at Love Life Now, whether that's a domestic violence agency in your area, whether it's
Mm-hmm.
somebody in your circle that you trust to tell something. And hopefully that person then seeks out a domestic violence advocate in your area. But domestic violence agencies are equipped with advocates that can help you navigate the process of what's next, the unknown, the scariness of it all, right? Whether that means getting a restraining order, whether that means putting you and your family up in another location, and undisclosed location at a shelter, whether that means relocating out of the state if you have the access to be able to do that, or them helping you to do that, whether that means, I mean, there's so many things. Maybe you're not ready yet, maybe you're thinking about leaving and you want to know how to navigate. Maybe that may mean getting a legal advocate on your side to help you navigate the process. But always speaking up, that's where it starts, and preferably through a domestic violence agency or somebody trusted in your circle that you feel okay speaking to.
I agree with you, but again, sometimes people again brought up the fear again. So, especially in the immigrant community, the
Yes.
fear that someone knowing that I am a victim, that I am being abused by my husband, and my husband has a title in the community. So I just
Hmm.
don't want to tell anyone what's going on in my family. So therefore, those are the fear that usually prevent people from telling someone what's
Yep.
going on with them. So
Yep.
again, what do you think are the most effective challenges for preventing DV in our communities?
Well,
What,
one of
what do
the
you,
biggest, as you said, those are legitimate fears. But to the end where there is help available, always it's the idea of not knowing where that help exists, that the challenges exist. I think is the next step, right? So now you know that you want to leave. Now you know you want to tell someone, but who do I tell? And I think it's getting informed about what resources are in your area. Love Life Now specifically exists to point people in the right direction for help. And if not us, well then there have been a lot of clergy that have come on board, especially within the last maybe 2 or 3 or 4 years, really, through AFAB, specifically, that have been getting trained around the issue of domestic violence, right? And a lot of churches are very much pastors, are sometimes the first point of contact that people will reach out to. Hospitals, if you decide to go, oftentimes when you go for a physical, one of the questions that they ask you, or even to see the doctor, is, are you safe? And they have
yeah.
relevant resources available in your language to be able to assist you with what's next. Domestic violence agencies, family and community resources have French speaking folks on hand to help with the next leg of the process, Portuguese speaking folks on hand. And so, again, it's just being in the know that there's always help available, but it does take speaking up. This type of abuse, whether it be verbal, emotional, or physical, breeds in silence. As long as you are keeping silent about their secret. This is not your secret to hold. This is not your guilt to carry, and this is not your shame to carry as well. As long as you're holding on to that, the more they feel equipped to continue to exert abuse upon you. But it's never, the answer is never to stay silent and accept that this is what it is. It is not what it is. Nobody deserves to live in fear or with
No.
abuse.
So, well said. So, therefore, the resources are here. We do have the resources in the community, and but the first step, it will be for the woman or for the men to take the first step and talk
Yes.
about it and
Yes.
ask someone for help. So, because
Yes.
if you don't, therefore, no one will, because we don't
No one
sometimes don't
knows.
we, no one will know,
You
and
and
not
you're,
only
go ahead, Marlene.
again, from your point of view, you saw your mom living in an abusive relationship. You witnessed that, but at the same time, you think that you were equipped to it, but you never received any support to let
Because
you
I never said
know.
anything. I never said
There we
anything
go.
as a child. So you have two, I had two things working against me. One, I'm a child, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 years old, going to school. I am deflecting what I believe is the shameful thing that is happening to my mom. I don't want anybody to know, right? So I'm not telling teachers. And then, and the Black community, right? So you're told what happens here stays here, right? Don't bring our business out to the streets. Don't talk to anybody. So you're going to school as if nothing has happened, but you have the world on your shoulders. You have the world of fear on your shoulders, not just for you, but for your mom. Your heart aches every day for her. You're traumatized, but you can't share that, right? You don't feel like you're privy to share that. Now, if you're a grown up, right, now you have the idea of the shame and this guilt that you're carrying around, that you'll be looked upon as weak, that people will shame you, that people will question you, that people will look at you as less than, that people will ostracize you, that you'll be extorted from the community. If it's the immigrant community, you're talking about folks, or you yourself thinking that you might get deported, right? Because again, you've heard that so many times from your abuser. You might think that you might get arrested because you've stuck around for the abuse. All of those things are not true. But again, your abuser prides themselves on keeping you silent and, under the guise of love. And that is certainly not the case with this issue at all.
I know. So the advice that we can give people that's watching today, so is to talk about it,
Yes.
reach out to someone, and your
Yes.
children witnessing, they are victim as well. Even though you're
Yes.
trying to protect them, they are victim of the TV as well. And
Yes.
don't be afraid what will happen to them. So seek some services and resources so that can help your family as a whole. So, and I don't know if you, I just want to put out. So Lovern has a
Ah,
book last year. I have my copy, but I haven't signed yet.
ah, we have to get that fixed. We have to get that fixed.
I definitely, we have to have that fixed. So, Lovan, I started to read it, but you know what? At some point, I put it down.
Yeah.
So, because when I'm reading it, so I have to take time to digest, to understand, and to see as a child and as a young adult your life. And you know what's the beautiful thing about it, Lovern? It's because you did not let that define you.
Yeah.
You did not let
Yeah.
it define you. So
Yeah.
you find strength. You find strength to move on. You find strength to
Mhm.
make something out of it and try
Yeah.
to help others to do not let DV to keep them down. So I
Yeah.
am very proud and I'm a fan and I will tell people things will come to you in your life, but do not let them define you. So you gotta find a
Yes.
way to move on and work through it. So what do you think?
Yeah. Gosh. First of all, what a beautiful surprise to see you with the book. The book has been, if anybody could have told me 2 years ago, 3 years ago, that I would have written a book and now on a nationwide book tour, further raising the issue of awareness around the issue, raising awareness around the issue. I would tell them flat out that they're lying. But like you said, there are things that come to you, and again, when you're at that point saying, I don't know if I can do this, or I'm ready to do this but I'm scared, I don't know what's next. um you know Fear lives again in silence, and the next leg of the journey was no cakewalk for me. And for any survivor, it's never that easy to just sort of get up and then brush yourself off. That happened to me. But I'm gonna be okay. They're like getting out or unlearning these behaviors. There's a lot of layers to it. So for me, it involved church, it involved speaking up, it involved reintegrating with society and trusting myself, it involved therapy. I am currently still in therapy, really, because of the book. The book really reignited the call for therapy, because it brought up, the book itself brought up so much, sort of what I thought was dealt with truths, but it certainly was not, that I had to put myself back in therapy. And I started it last year. And by March, I think I had a pretty good handle of what I was dealing with. And since then, I still see my therapist once a week. Every Wednesday at 11 o'clock, I self care with my therapist. I have an hour that I sit and talk about anything and everything, because we all walk around with stuff. And if you've been through trauma like domestic violence or really any other trauma, it is important to get it out. It is not your secret to carry, or any or shame to carry. And so that's what I've taken away from this experience between writing the book and being able to be on this book tour, and not just nationwide, but internationally. The book is in Trinidad as well as London. And I'm just so incredibly blessed to have been able for a publisher to approach me to be able to do this project. But yeah, I mean, it certainly wasn't, overnight. It took many years, succinctly 10 years, after I had formed the foundation, Love Life Now, which, you see in the background, and doing the work that we do around awareness, for me to be able to, sort of come to the project of a willing and full mind. Because many people before, in years past, had said you should write a book, and I sort of brushed it to the side. But it was the right time, back in January of 2021, to be able to do it. So I'm so blessed, Marlene, and I'm so excited that you have it. It
I'm
is
so
a lot
excited for you.
to digest. So I hear you.
It,
It's a roller coaster of emotion,
yes,
that the book
yes,
goes through, and it's very raw. It's
yeah.
because I really wanted people to understand the brevity of what this issue entails. I didn't want to sugarcoat it. I wanted to show what it
Mm.
was really to be a child witness, and how traumatic it can be for children in those situations. The consequences of sticking around, thinking that you're sticking around for the children or to keep
But
the family whole, and understanding that that is not doing them any favors. Children, again, that are in these experiences are suffering silently, and they don't feel like they're worth, being able, being worth, saving. So they go through it with you, not understanding that you are really doing harm to them. So it was really important for me to do that. And then again, as a young adult, 21, to relate to teens and young adults and women in general alike, that what this issue looks like on the forefront, and the red flags. And I can tell you, on this book tour that I've been on, Marlene, gosh, I have men coming up to me saying that either they're
I
disclosing that
bet.
they've experienced this issue, either their mothers have went through it or are going through it,
Mm-hmm.
their sisters, their daughters, and then women subsequently, either they're going through it or they have a family member or a work colleague that is going through it and they don't know what to do. So it's been really, a blessing, because people feel like they have an avenue, another avenue. I'm not the only avenue to be
Yeah,
able to
yeah.
disclose, what's been plaguing them, and then further potentially I can give them resources that they can, be able to help navigate, what's next. So really a blessing all around, for sure.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. I thank you because this book, as I said to people, so it's not easy to digest, but again, it's a good example how you survive. You are a
Yeah.
survivor,
Ah,
and also Yes, you do. You are a survivor. And also, you gave us hope. And if people are reading that book, there's hope. And the
Yeah.
hope is it takes a village.
Yes.
It has people, you need people around you to address
Yes.
that. You need people around you to address the mental health that's related to the domestic violence. So
What you're going
again,
through. Yeah.
what you're going through, you just put it out. You were not ready to write the book because it's such a traumatic event. So you
Mhm.
didn't want to go back and touch that without
Yeah.
knowing that you will be okay mentally. So
Yeah.
and when you decided to do that, you said, yes, I need to be in counseling because I'm
Yes.
revisiting the past. That
Yeah.
was so traumatized to
Gosh.
me. So again, the mental health piece associated with DV, it's big. So if we
Yes.
were taking time today to talk about domestic violence, and uh, we will take the entire night to do that. And because it associates with a lot of things, it associates with mental health, it's associated with physical health, because it's not
Mhm.
only it's associated with the whole body. So
Yes.
again, if there's one example, if there's one message that you want people that's watching today or tonight to take out from this interview, what would that be?
Find out what the local domestic violence resources in your area. Um, you may not be ready to make a move yet, but at least see what services are available. And there are many. Some agencies offer legal advocacies, all of them offer counseling. All of the services are free. Some of them offer childcare while you're going through the process. Financial assistance. We offer some financial assistance if you have recently left or thinking about leaving domestic violence and you need help with a related expense through our Get Safe Fund. Reach out to us. You've heard me speak tonight. I do not speak Haitian Creole, but I could have someone that would be able to translate when we set up a call. Our number is 888-556-9876. Again, 888-556-9876. And if you don't feel like calling directly, you can text that number. Call or text us to find out what the resources are in your area or for help with a small piece of financial assistance that we can help you in your next leg of your journey. But don't stay silent. Please, I beg of you, speak up.
Yeah, so the key is for people to speak out. So because if you don't talk, if you don't reach out to someone to talk about what you're going through, we won't be able to support you. No one will be able to give you the resources that you will need to make a step, to make a move.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
we encourage everyone. So if you are in a relationship, then you feel that it's not settled the right way that you think relationship should be. So I'm no expert in relationship, but again, you will know when someone is treating you the right way, when someone is not treating you the right way. So
Your gut will talk to
therefore,
you and it will speak to you loudly. Your gut will speak to you.
yes, yes, you need to follow through with that and reach out to someone. And Lovern, so I just want you to say the last word. And I know we did not have time to talk about the mental health that associate with domestic violence, so we can leave that for another show. But if you want to, in closing, please, what do you want people to know more about DV?
Yeah, I'll repeat our number again, 888-556-9876. Call or text that number to find out what the resources are available to you. But also that you deserve a life free of domestic violence. You deserve to live a life with peace of mind. And if you don't have that in your home, the most sacred place that is known to you, the place where you're supposed to come and feel safe, please, I beg you, whether again, domestic violence isn't always physical, it comes in the form of emotional and verbal abuse. And so if you're bound by that, please know that it is not the end all. It is not where you are destined to be. Please speak up and let the journey of healing and safety start there.
we want to let everyone knows that domestic violence has no boundaries. It happens everywhere. It's happening in the most affluent household that you can imagine. So it happened in the minorities, happened in the middle class, it happened in the upper class, people that are educated. It happened everywhere. But the most thing that we need to understand is to speak up, reach out. So, in that note, I want to thank Lovern for her time, and I really appreciate you, and I really love you. Please keep going, keep the journey going, and we want you to continue to do the work that you're doing safely. Thank you for your
After
time
God, yes.
tonight.
Amen. Thank you, Marlene.
Thank you. Appreciate you.